1960, I was transferred as a teacher to a small country school. Nobody really knew where it was. The people at the railway station didn't know where it was. The people at the post office didn't know where it was. But I got there and I thought, well, I've got to make the best of this and I will try to join into the community. And they had a tennis club. It used to be a Monday night, and they asked me, do I play tennis? I said, oh yes, so I'll go. Well, when I got to the tennis club, they were all elderly farmers and their wives, and one bachelor, 23. And we had a nice night, and I went home and I was invited again the next week because I must have played reasonable tennis. And I found that the next time, most of the people, there were 4 on the court, the others were all seemed to be standing outside, and I seemed to be sitting with this one bachelor. And the conversation got round and I said, well, what do you do around here at the weekend? Well, that was, should never have said that, because 61 years later I've still got him. But anyway, he said, well, would you like to see around the district? And I said, well, that'd be nice to see where I really am out in this little place. There were only 34 kids at the school from years 1 to 7, but it was a lovely school and I've never regretted being there. Anyway, he said, I'll pick you up. I was boarding at the hotel at the time. Turns out he was a farmer. So I wait out front of the hotel on Sunday morning, and this car pulls up, if you could call it that. It was a 1934 Chev. It was green and grey, and it was just going, that's all. And I believe the brakes were being held by a piece of barbed wire. And we had to go up, we were going up the main highway, we were going to Somerset Dam. This was going to be really nice. He said, we'll pick up some lunch in the little town of Esk, which was about half an hour away. Well, we had to go through a bit of a creek, and I learnt very quickly to lift my feet up because the water used to come up through the rust in the well. So we got to Esk, and it was only a little place then, and he said, we've got to get some lunch, and there was a little cafe opening. So he parks the car, we get out, and we had got some lovely fresh ham sandwiches at the bakery. And we get back into the car, he turns it on, it doesn't go, it's overheated. So we had to wait a while, and we sat there for a while, and he gave it another go, no, it didn't go. And he said, it plays up like this, okay. So the next thing, the church had up the road, had just come out, and this priest walked past the car, and I said to Frank, try the car now. It actually did go. So off we went up this dirt road. It was a long way out to Somerset Dam in those days, and it was all dirt. And this car, the windows didn't all go right up to the top, and we had the hole in the bottom. And the back seat, because they were two bench seats, and the back seat was, when I looked, was completely covered in dust. So the car used to suck quite a bit of dust in on this dirt road. And the sandwiches in their packets were put on the back seat. So off we go, and we must have been driving for about half an hour, and the next thing, Around the bend, here's this old farmer with a pair of pants hanging down around here, and they were tied up with a piece of baling twine. If anybody knows what baling twine is, like string, thick string, and tied up, the tummy's hanging over the top, and he's got a lovely cattle dog running along beside him, and he stands in the middle of the road and he goes like this. And Frank pulls this car up to a stop with these lousy brakes. And anyway, before we could say anything, this old fellow, he grabs hold of the back door, right whips it open, gets in, shuts the door. Never said anything. So Frank said, well, where you going, mate? He said, oh, just take me to the pub up the road. He said, oh, no, no. And Frank said, well, what about the dog? Oh, don't worry about him. He said he'll find his way there. Well, he really shouldn't have been going to the pub because he was really, I think he'd been at the pub the night before. So anyway, that was all right. We drove up the road for another quarter of an hour or something. And he said, you can pull up here, mate. He said, and I'll get out. And there was this lone pub well before we got to Somerset Bend. Well, the story was, we talk about strangers, you shouldn't pick one up. And this one we couldn't help doing it. We got up to Somerset Dam, and it was absolutely beautiful up at Somerset Dam, it really was. And he said, we'll have, do you want sandwiches now and a drink? And I said, yeah. Well, there was only one small problem because you know what had happened, don't you? When this fellow got in, he sat on our side. About that thing. So that was my first outing with my husband-to-be, as it turned out, and is. So that's my story on picking up strangers, Kate. Well, we didn't have a choice.